Good morning. I'll call the February 5th, 2021 meeting of the Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority to order. Are there any citizens to be heard? I skipped an item. There are no items from the chairman, so I'm going to move on down to item 4, which is the approval of the minutes of the January 8th, 2021 COTPA board meeting. Is there a motion to, we do this? I don't do it.
You better remind Chris to, next meeting, he better come over here to have a full-on practice run.
We're going to do a voice vote with Mr. Ruiz.
Okay, we're going to vote on the approval of the minutes with Trustee Ruiz voting orally. So, would everybody else? Okay. Okay, so we have it. Motion passed to the approval of the minutes. So we're going to move on to the consent docket. There are 6 items on the consent docket. Do any of the trustees have any questions about any of the items that they would like to pull for individual consideration? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent docket? It's been moved by Trustee Bryant and seconded by Trustee Cooper.
You need to ask him.
Okay.
Would you like to vote? It should be on
Trust-
the floor.
Trustee Ruiz, would you like to vote orally? Okay, is that a yay? Okay, that was an aye. Okay. The consent docket is approved. So moving on to item 6, items for individual consideration. We have 3 items. The first one is to receive the preliminary design report for project MC 0619, the Northwest Corridor Bus Rapid Transit from HNTB Corporation. And I believe that we received an update, a 30% update from them at our last meeting, that this is the written documentation to receive the preliminary design report.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Vice Chairman. I believe it was Brian Comer presented last month to the trust, the 30% design report review. And so the item that we have this morning is really just, the trust taking that official action to receive that report. And I think I've mentioned this to most of the trustees, but the report itself, as you can imagine, is several hundred pages in length. So an actual paper copy is not included in your packet, but it's already been made available to you online, as you know, and it's online and available for the public as well. So with acceptance and receipt of this report, this will take us from task 1B on the overall project we've scoped HNTB to do, taking them to task 2, which will then begin their work on final plans and specs.
Okay, is there any questions? If not, is there a motion to receive the design report? There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate on your PrimeGov, and Trustee Ruiz votes aye. So that passes. So we're going to item B, which is the professional services agreement with the Oklahoma City Family Justice Center Incorporated, Palomar, for the provision of in-house transportation services to Palomar clients, estimated revenue at $1,500. And it would run from February 5th, 2021 to February 4th, 2022.
Yes, so I can provide a few details on this item. And really, this is a continuation of some services that we've been providing to Palomar throughout the year using some of our contracted transportation operators. And what this item is doing is really solidifying an agreement between COTPA and Palomar for our Embark employees to actually be able to provide that transportation. And for a little bit, more background on that, as you're well aware, the Family Justice Center, the client base that they serve, transportation is one of the main challenges that they have, getting their clients basically where they need to go, whether it be a particular program they're enrolled in or for a medical appointment or whatever the case might be. And so, us entering into this agreement with Palomar to provide that transportation, as we've communicated in committee meetings, we believe that continues to elevate the status and use of our services, the Embark family of services, but also supports the city's ongoing efforts to support, criminal justice reform and such. So the way we structured this is we are asking for $1,500 in revenue from Palomar to cover basically our administrative costs. As far as the funding for an actual bus operator, if you will, to drive the vehicle and provide the transportation, we were able to leverage an existing position that we had in our budget, so there's no really additional expense to us to provide this service. And so again, just a continuation of a partnership now between COTPA, Palomar, and of course the City of Oklahoma City. With that, I'll be happy to answer any other questions you might have about the agreement.
Are there any questions or comments about this? If not, is there a motion to accept the professional services agreement. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor indicated by saying aye. Trustee Ruiz, are you on? Okay, good. So the motion passes. Item C is an option agreement with SMJ Industries, formerly known as Turner Brothers Industries. Estimated expense of the option agreement is $201,000.
Yes, sir. So with this item here, this item too has been presented in Finance Committee. So those that were on the Finance Committee will recall the discussions we had about opportunities to try and purchase some land directly south of our existing operations and administrative facility at 2000 South May. And so what this item does is really enters COTPA into what we call a options purchase agreement with the seller, SMJ. And through the agreement, the seller has agreed to basically hold that parcel of land for us for up to 2 years while we secure the funding to purchase the property. And of course, for securing that property and basically taking it off the market, COTPA, with approval of the agreement, will pay basically an option fee, a fee to hold that property. So the way the option is structured is for the first year, to hold that land for the first year, that'd be $134,000. Going into the second year, it would be $67,000. And ideally, we would be able to purchase that land just as expeditiously as we could. Hopefully, it would not go out through the full 2 years. And so that's really our motivation, right, is to get the land acquired as quickly as we possibly can. One of the things I did want to mention is that the option price that we're paying, if we purchase the land before that full option period is expired, then whatever that remaining balance, if you will, the prorated remaining balance, will go towards the purchase price of the land. So, for example, in the first year, we pay $134,000. If it were to take us 6 months to buy the land, then half of that option, that $67,000, would actually carry over and go towards the purchase price. So we wouldn't be out the full $134,000, in other words, if we bought it within that first year. The property that we're looking at, again, it's almost 11 acres directly south of the 2000 South May Avenue facility. The price that we've negotiated for the property is $1,675,000. And again, we have 2 years to be able to purchase that property for that amount. So one final thought, or one final comment, and probably should have started with this, but why are we looking at additional property? Well, when we think about the trajectory that transit is on with the Northwest BRT coming online, potential service enhancements coming with MAPS 4, which will create the need to maintain more vehicles, house more employees. I mean, our current facility is really, and I know I've shared this before with the Transportation Committee and the trustees, so it's something you're well aware of, but we're just about out of room. So anything beyond the Northwest BRT coming online, whether it's additional buses for frequency enhancements, or it's additional bus rapid transit in the future, or even maybe a small fleet of micro-transit vehicles, I mean, we're essentially out of room. And so by purchasing this land now, and we're, it's really fortunate that it's adjacent to our existing property, so we could have, one larger facility all in one location. So by purchasing this property now, it really sets us up for where we need to be in the future. So I do appreciate the Finance Committee's guidance on this, and of course staff and Haley's work in negotiating the agreement.
Okay, are there any questions or comments about this item? If not, is there a motion to approve the agreement? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, vote. Okay, the item passes. Now, moving on to item 7 on the agenda is ratification of claims and payroll for January 5th through January 26th. Is there a motion to receive or ratify these claims and payroll? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Motion passes. Okay, item 8 is to receive the financial reports for the COTPA schedule of revenue and expenditures, budget to actual for the months ending December 31st, 2020. Jason?
Yes, sir. Looking at the budget to actual for 6 months ending December 31st, I would ask you to turn to page 2 in your budget to actual, and we can start with a few comments on our transportation operations financial. Just a couple of comments for the trust this morning. One, I would direct your attention to the total revenue line. You can see that through 6 months of the fiscal year, we're actually about $489,000 ahead of what we had projected through our budget. Now keep in mind, this is our amended budget where we actually ended up reducing some of our estimated fare box revenue and budgeting more of our federal CARES money. But nonetheless, we are ahead in our revenue, and that's primarily because we're ahead on our grant draws. And I know the trust is familiar with the timing of those draws. Sometimes, we're a little bit under budget. Sometimes we're a little bit over budget. This case, we're over budget on our grant draws. It doesn't necessarily add any additional revenue. It just means that we're drawing down that grant at a little bit faster pace than what we had budgeted. So looking down at the expenses, you can see in all of the expenditure categories we're projected, or I should say year to date, we're coming in under budget on all the expenditure categories with the exception of supplies. It's $131,000 over through 6 months of the fiscal year. Supplies consist primarily of bus parts, but also, again, just with the nature of the operating environment we have today, we are spending, more money on PPE and those kinds of supplies than what we have in the past. So with that, you'll notice the total operating income or loss there we're basically 1.2 million more in revenue than what we have in expenses. But again, our grant revenue is a little bit ahead of what we had projected. And keep in mind, too, we received our entire state government subsidy really in one lump sum. So that's basically $1 million that we received from the state at one time, and we'll spend that down throughout the year. So just as we have seen in previous fiscal years, that surplus, if you will diminish as we get further along through the fiscal year. I'd like to direct your attention, if I could, to page 4 to talk about parking operations. And I know we've had some discussions in committee meetings and even here at the trust meetings about our parking operations. And I would expect a budget amendment to come back to the trust in the coming months, basically revising both our revenue and our expenditure estimates downward, and likely budgeting a bit of fund balance or reserves in order to help us fund some of the expenses that we're seeing this year. And the reason for that is primarily because of the revenues that we projected coming in significantly under budget. And so I'll just direct your attention to the revenues here. You can see that we're about $615,000 less than what we had budgeted. And over half of that is due to the fact that we really have not received any event revenue this fiscal year. When we put the budget together, we had projected, a slow return, if you will, of events as we progress through the fiscal year, and we're just not seeing that. So nonetheless, the operating income or loss shows that our revenues year to date still exceed our expenses by about $88,000. Again, as we get further through the year, though, we're probably going to need to budget some reserves to cover some of the current year expenses. And then I'll conclude my comments on streetcar operations. This is page 7. And again, my comments related to streetcar will be similar to what I've mentioned before, and really would direct your attention primarily to the operating loss or income line there at the bottom of your budget to actual. You'll see that, again, through 6 months of the fiscal year, we're projecting, or we have, revenues in excess of expenses by about $616,000. Keep in mind, this is 6 months of the fiscal year. It only reflects, I believe, 5 actual payments to Herzog Transit for the contracted streetcar operations. So again, as we get through the fiscal year and, we pay all those obligations, that surplus will diminish considerably. We've been looking at streetcar operations in particular this week, working with the finance department, as we do throughout the year, just to take a look at our budget and kind of shore up and revisit our projections. And we're still at this point looking to finish the year with a small surplus on the streetcar operations. I'm happy to answer any questions about any of the other reports.
Are there any questions or comments on the financial reports? If not, we have a motion and a second to receive the financial reports. Please vote. Motion passes. Okay, going on to program reports. We have a presentation today by Kristen Torkelson on community engagement and customer relations programs.
Good morning. Can you all hear me okay? Great. I have an update to give you all on the stakeholder work group that we had in January. We're going to be meeting monthly, and it'll be the 3rd Tuesday of the month. So we have 9 stakeholders from the community along the route, and I have their logos listed here. We also have 10 city employees, which makes a total of 22 members in the work group. We had all but one attend, so attendance was great the first time. It's actually not a public meeting, so we had the opportunity to do a virtual option and an in-person option. Virtual was very popular. So we also appointed our chair and vice chair, so thank you, Councilperson Sepner, for doing that, and Jane Jenkins is our vice chair. We appreciate your work with that. Next slide, please. It's okay. So these are the things that we covered during the meeting. Community engagement, first and foremost. For those of you who know me from my streetcar role, it'll be the same. So we will have, weekly updates. I will be the main point of contact, so everybody will have my cell phone number, email address, so that they can share with whomever. We also went over the stakeholder roles. We had just like a general presentation about BRT, just so everybody is all on the same page and they all know what's happening. We also covered the budget. We went over the schedule, and then we talked about all of the stop platform locations along the route. And our next meeting topic, we're going to have a presentation from our marketing department to talk about Brt Branding. And we want to emphasize the fact that it will, we're going to keep everything basically in the family of services for Embark. So I put the Embark logo up there, the streetcar logo. You can see the familiarity with the arrows. We want to keep it, simple, but also easily recognizable for the public. So that will be the next topic for the next meeting. Do y'all have any questions?
Well, if anybody's got any ideas as to a catchy name for our Northwest BRT, that'd be forward them on to Kristen.
Yes. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Kristen before we move on? If not, okay. We have the 5 program reports that are in our packets. Is there a motion that we receive? It's been moved and seconded. If you all will vote now to receive our program reports. Okay, motion passed. Okay, items from the trustee, and I just have one to start off with to thank Trustee Johnson for acting as chairman the last couple of meetings that we've had to meet live rather than virtual. And you did a great job. So, anything else? James?
Just to say, of course, thank you as well to Trustee Johnson for the reasons Barney just said, or Trustee Simpner just said. I would also encourage everybody to go on YouTube and search the recent confirmation hearing for now Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. I know a lot of headlines mentioned the history he made as our country's first openly LGBTQ cabinet member, any cabinet post. And that is very important, and I commend the Secretary for that. At the same time, I would encourage you to watch that 2.5-hour confirmation discussion with the committee before this ever went to a full vote of the Senate. Because in that 2.5 hours, you're going to hear senators from across our country talking about very specific transit needs in their state. And it was really very educational for me, hearing how Alaska is different in terms of land mass and how people move around Alaska, right, versus how people move around Oklahoma or New York. I mean, it was really a very cool educational thing to hear someone from Hawaii or to hear someone from the Northeast. I hate to nerd out, I'm just telling you, it was really educational. For our purposes though, here in Oklahoma City, I think it's worth our time. It turns out the Secretary is quite the studious person and really talked about a lot of the grants that this trust has advocated for and secured in the past. And the Secretary made several commitments to not just ensuring those grants live on, but that we strengthen them. He expressed a commitment to complete livable streets, meaning, cars and bikes and people walking, living together. So I'm just saying, go back and watch that. It was really, 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 really neat. And so I look forward to seeing his time in office. Thank you.
Excuse me. Trustee Ruiz, do you have anything? Trustee Johnson? Trustee Bryant? Trustee Hill?
Yeah, I have one item. I was glad to see the Palomar on the pass today. They celebrated their 4th anniversary this year, and in those 4 years, they've helped 13,500 survivors of domestic abuse. So it's a great program, and I'm happy that we're part of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chairman. Yeah, just a few items for the trustees. I wanted to give you just a brief update on the new parking garage. As you know, it is fully operational. Our parking contractor, Republic, has completely moved into those offices there, so they're now housed at the new parking garage. You'll notice the art on both the south and the east sides of the garage is complete. So we're making good progress on finishing up the art. February 23rd is still our our final completion date. And just to make sure, if we haven't told you, your access cards have all been, programmed to be able to allow you to get into that garage. So encourage you to, drive through the garage and check it out, since we haven't had an opportunity to have a ribbon cutting, if you will. But the art looks really nice on the outside for sure, but it also it really adds some interesting color to the inside of the garage. So might be a nice surprise for you there. The other thing I wanted to mention is I wanted to thank the Maps 4 Advisory Committee for putting us on their agenda yesterday. I was able to share with that advisory committee kind of the overall Maps 4 transit concept plan that we had put together, and that's part of the Maps 4 program. So again, thanks to the advisory committee for hearing about our projects. And then finally, I just wanted to also thank those that attended the RTA virtual town hall last week on the 28th. I know some of you were in attendance on that, and we have, that administrative agreement where we provide support to the RTA, so felt it might be appropriate to mention it in this meeting, and also mention that there will be another town hall on March 24th, and so we'll make sure that all the trustees receive that information on how to join that virtual town hall as well. So thank you for letting me make those comments.
Okay, if there's not anything else, then we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming. See you next month.